So thank you for watching. Yeah, so a lot has changed since my last top 10 video. I don't know this girl or who she thought she was, but yeah, I don't know her. Y'all know her? I don't know her. I ain't getting nothing ready. Nothing. I gotta go look it up like a normal person. So without further ado, I would like to get right into my another 10 things I wish I knew before I started wire wrapping. I cannot believe I found another 10 things that I had no idea that you can do this. I guess that's how bad of a wire wrapper I am. My number 10 thing that I wish I knew, starting out, I was just using whatever wire was lying around, but it started to get to a point where all my work was so inconsistent. Like, there'll be a thin wire here, be a thick wire here. I just wish I knew that a gauge wheel existed. What I will say though is that this is made out of metal, in that the metal can scratch your wire, but you know, that's okay. There is plastic gauge wheels out there, but I seem to, I can't find them. I can't find them anywhere, and all I found was metal ones. So just be careful when you're using this on your wire wrapping. So I'm updating my number 9 from my last video. I did have a gauge wheel. I did have a plastic gauge wheel, but that one in particular didn't get small enough. And while you're at it, I don't know how to use this thing just yet, but this is for your stones. So it will give you the millimeter of your stones, so you know when you reorder them what size they were. I don't know how this thing works. Okay, this is easy. It's easy to figure out. Like, this is 1 millimeter, and it actually tells you it's all lined up, and it opens up and it slides on the grid here to let you know how big your stones are or how small they are. For my number 9, while you're at it, once you get your gauge wheel, at the same time, get yourself some new tools. And so that's exactly what I did. So I went to a combination of Amazon and some Fire Mountain gems. So this is what I got from Fire Mountain. And I got these pliers here. I got a couple pliers just to get some updated, you know, things. This one is kind of concave, as you can see. So if I'm wrapping around, I can wrap it and then it would make it circle. So I got this guy. Gotta let a cat in. Then I got this from Amazon. I'll put in a link in the description box below. So it says this one is nylon jaw forming pliers. This is what it looks like. So you have this little shape here, which makes it into a little circle shape. Like if you're gonna make a bracelet and you're just going around and you're forming a circle, which is really cool. And I picked these because it has the nylon here and you are not going to run into scratching on your wires. So the next thing I got, this is just something else that you can buy if you don't want to deal with Plastidip. You got these nylon covers on just plain flat pliers. I have flat pliers. So basically they're like these, but they have these nylon things which, you know, are really soft and squishy kind of. They're softer than the metal obviously because it's plastic. And I decided I wanted to try that. I said get yourself some new tools. That's what I did. So I got those two. So I got this one. These have the bail makers on both sides. I kind of like when pliers have that little, instead of having a spring, Let me get a pair of pliers that have a spring in it. These are kind of like the one-sided bail makers, but they have the bail makers on both sides. Those are my new tools that I got, and of course I'm going to put them in the description box below. And my number 8, did you know that if you're in a pinch, in my last video I was talking about doing Plastidip on the tips of your tools. What if you ran out of Plastidip, which I do all the time? That's not right. I don't run out of Plastidip. My Plastidip be drying up, and yeah, I say I ran out of my Plastidip, but really it meant that I left it open. So we don't have any Plastidip, so we ran out, quote unquote. If you ran out of Plastidip, did you know if you're in a pinch, you're like, I have to get this done, grab your glue gun. Okay, I had this heating up for a little bit, so I like to take my glue gun and I like to spread glue out along the edges, and I like to swipe it so I can give it a nice smooth edge of it, and swipe it because all that glue can be taken off later with some rubbing alcohol. Alright, so now if you're in a pinch, you could just put some glue on it, some hot glue on it, and it covers up all those sharp edges, so you can get your work done for that day if you're in a pinch. For my number 7, what if you are dipping your Plastidip and you're using it? That's awesome and stuff, and you do have Plastidip. Must be nice to have some Plastidip just lying around. And if you have your Plastidip lying around and you dip your tools and you're like, man, this Plastidip is just really thick on my tools, did you know that you could just take some Plastidip and get a paintbrush and paint it on? Let me show you how I did that. Okay, so if you take a little bit of Plastidip and get yourself a little paintbrush, nothing crazy, put a little bit of Plastidip. I use the dowel to scoop it out of the container and put it into a little glass dish because it's easier, because my Plastidip is a little bit low. I will be sticking it all the way in there, and yeah, all that good jazz. So if you can take your Plastidip, put a little bit on your brush, get your tools, and just thinly paint a little layer onto your tools. So then you'll have a thinner layer, and not only would you have a thinner layer, you have a thinner layer that will be hard for the Plastidip to be peeled off later. For my number 6, this is for the people who put seed beads in their jewelry and wire wrapping. I use seed beads and all that stuff, and smaller beads in some of my wire wrapping, and I wish I knew the magic of a bead spinner. You're like, bead spinner? What the heck is that? Y'all. Okay, so this tip, like I said, is for the people who they work with seed beads. This little thing is so magical. I love it so much. How it's designed is it's on this little spinning thing, and then there is this little hollow area in the bottom of this little container. There's a little hollow area where this goes inside of it, and it goes inside of this thing. So it's not a tight fit, but it just sits right on top, and as a result it just spins on a little dowel. What? Yeah. Also, what works with this is if you go and get yourself some curved big eye beading needles. So they come 2 in a pack. I'll put that in the description box, and basically they're big eye needles. So a regular needle will have just one little tiny eye, but this one, the whole needle is an eye. See? Oh my god. So that is where your string is going to go. So I have some string here, nothing special. It's actually embroidery floss, And so I'm just sticking it in the middle there. It's tightly clasped in the middle of this needle. The focal point of this needle is the fact that it has this little curve on it. What happens is, this little magical thing, what you do is you spin it in a certain way. You have to spin it this way, whereas you're going to be scooping like this. So you're going to be going in this direction, and it's going to meet up with this needle. Because if you go this direction, you're not going to get anything, because it's just going to be going in the opposite direction, and that's not what you need. So you need to be going toward the needle, and the needle needs to be going toward the bead spinner. So you're kind of like scooping as you go. So I just spin it, and I lightly just put the needle in there, scrape along the surface. And then I picked up some beads when I did that. And then you just push it down, and then you just keep going in the direction of the needle. You're going to spin it, and then you're going to just glance the needle across the top, scoop some, and pull it down. This thing is magical. I love it so much. You could do this you could take this and make it into a little ring. You can make it into a bracelet, whatever you want to do. It's just easier than putting the seed beads in your hand and like scooping them onto a regular needle. This is so much easier, and it's fun. And sometimes I wouldn't even make anything. I would be planning on making something, and then I end up just spinning it. And once you get as many beads on here as you would like, then comes the fun part of trying to knot this. I found a very easy way to knot this and get yourself a nice clean knot. So what I like to do is I like to take my work where it's in the back of my hand like this. So I have it just hanging over the back of my hand. So I'm going to pull it down just a smidge and wrap it around my 2 fingers. And then I am going to pull it through that loop I just made. Okay, then I'm going to grab my knotter. The anatomy of this knotter is you have this little sharp edge here that's supposed to pick up your loop, and then you have this little split edge where you put your loop into, and then this right here, the platform here, just slides up, and it's gonna pull the knot off of this needle right here. Okay, so now I'm going to take the pointy needle and I'm going to stick it into the loop I just made, and then I'm going to pull it tight. Then I am going to pivot, and this is just the end string, and then you have your beading on the back. Okay, and then what you're going to do is then you are going to just push it up, and you created a nice little knot. I'm just giving you guys tip after tip after tip. I'm looking like I'm at like tip number 12 here. So I found that I am needing to take my beads out of my spinner, put it in here. So what I like to do is I like to take them and just pour them into this thing here, because it seems to have more space. It's just easier to just do it like that instead of, you know, dropping them everywhere. And let's say you spilled some by mistake. I have this little mat, but it's not meant to be a mat. You could take any sort of fabric that just, you know, not very smooth, and you can put that underneath anywhere you're going to be working on seed beads. And I have this little triangle thing. This triangle thing is very good for scooping out beads. It's good for just putting your beads in there and, you know, separating them. It's also good for separating out beads and counting beads. It's very good for that. but it's also what I use it for. It's also good for scooping your beads up and cleaning them up. Scoop and clean them up. Because I don't like to waste anything, and besides, who wants to constantly have beads in your rug? So I'm a stickler for making sure all my beads are picked up, everything is cleaned up. Not all the time am I like that, but with beads, oh yeah, I'm definitely like that. And then by that point, you should be able to just pour it in without the beads going everywhere. And if they did, you have your little triangle that you can clean them up really quick. Look how easy that was. For my number 5, I remember back in the day when we used to be able to go to like Barnes and Noble and stuff and just like walk around aimlessly without a mask and just be like touching everything, and then we'll come home and we'd be home safe without a virus of some sort. Yeah, back in those days, I used to buy all the wire wrapping books and magazines out there, and I was like, yeah, these are awesome. But basically, they can describe to me all they want what I should do for this particular piece, but all I was doing was looking at pictures. So where else can I get inspiration now that everything's all shut down and I can't just walk into a store when I want to because I might die? You can use Pinterest. Let me show you how to use Pinterest for inspiration. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open up Pinterest. And Pinterest likes to distract you with a lot of things, but you're focused. You are looking for jewelry to add to your Pinterest board. All right, so this is the part where you start to scroll, or you can hit this search tool thing at the bottom, and you can put in there something like, let's do bead cage. So let's say you like this as an inspiration. It's just something that you want to remember to come back to it later. So you are going to click that little thumbtack, and then you, from this point, if you already have boards, you could just put it on a board. If you don't have a board, all the way at the bottom down here is this red plus symbol that says create a board. And so since I already have boards, I'm going to say this is my practice board. Okay, so that's the name of my board. So I'm going to hit next, and then you're just going to, your board's created, and whatever you pin to it goes right on that board. So I'm going to keep scrolling. I'm going to look a little bit more. Ooh, I like this. And then I'm going to choose whatever board. And if that board doesn't, sometimes they say top choices because the top choices mean the last board that you had saved a pin on. But you can always scroll down to see what, board you want. So I'm going to go and I'm just going to go and put it in a board. I ain't going to tell you, look at this jewelry board. I even have sections in my board. So you can actually add a section. So I'm going to scroll all the way down, and you can see on the bottom here, it says add a section. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say practice Pinterest. And that's how you create a section within a board. Hit done. So to find your board, click on your little icon here at the bottom, and it says there's create, saved, or tried. I don't have a lot of tried, so I'm going to say saved. And then when you go into saved, it shows you all your boards. So I'm going to go and try to find my jewelry board. It's all in alphabetical order. Here it is. And so in here, it actually gives you all your sections first. So you can look at that, and then you can see my section that I just created, which was practice Pinterest, and there's my little pin in there. So you can use this for inspiration to find different things that you want to create jewelry wise. So you can use this to keep everything together of the things that inspire you to create. Like, for instance, if I find myself in a rut, I open up Pinterest, because Pinterest is the one place where I feel, and everybody should feel, you're most inspired. So that's how you use Pinterest for inspiration. For my number 4, I wish I knew what wire to buy for people who have sensitive skin. Okay, you don't have sensitive skin. I wish I knew what wire to get. So let's go through all my wire to see what wire is perfect for people who have sensitive skin. You got it, dude. You can do it. Do it. Yeah, good job. He just jumped in a chair. I don't know why I cheer him on to jump in the chair, but he's there. He's happy. Yay. So in my research of figuring out what is good for sensitive skin, I found that working with copper, brass, and stainless steel have worked very well for me. I don't have any problems with gold fill or anything like that, but somebody else might, so I wouldn't use that. Definitely stay away from the wire that doesn't tell you what it is. So when it doesn't tell you what it is, more than likely it's nickel. So I like to keep everything organized and keep it in one spot. I will be working with stainless steel along with copper and brass, and staying away from aluminum as earring wire. So I will be working with aluminum wire, but I will be only using it for like the design of the earring. But then the earring part that goes in your ear, the earring wire, I would stay away from the aluminum. Companies that I actually go to, I find this on Amazon. I'll have a description. I have it in the description box below. It's by Bead Spinner. What it is tarnish resistant wire. It's copper. It comes in gold color, regular yellow gold. It comes in rose gold. It comes in silver color. It comes in, this is yellow gold, and I was gonna get also a light yellow gold. I like to work with these. This is 18 gauge. Both of them are 18 gauge, and these are good for earring wire. I'll be going between 18 gauge and 20 gauge for earring wire. So these are the wires that I use for sensitive skin. So for my number 3, I remember I went and I got some really expensive cutters, and I was like, I'm gonna use these cutters on everything. And I decided I want to get some memory wire, and I'm going to cut that with my really expensive cutters, and I ruined them. They were expensive and I broke them. I'm going to show you a different way to cut your memory wire without using cutters, and I can show you some cutters that you can use for memory wire. Okay, so this is the memory wire that I got. I'll put it in the description box below, as I do with everything. You guys are never in the dark. I got this from Bedia. I don't know if it's just standard size for a memory wire. I don't know, but I got it whereas it's in gold and in silver, because it says that it is 6 centimeters in diameter. Okay. Oh God. Okay. There's 2 things that you can do for memory wire and cutting them and all that good jazz. You can either get yourself an actual memory wire cutter. This one I got from Beadspinner. It's actually for memory wire cutting, okay? I don't know what's so special about it, but it's always best to have a special cutter for memory wire instead of using your very expensive regular wire cutters. I have yet to use this. This is my first. So I have my special little cutters, and it cuts it very nicely, very smoothly too. That's one way of cutting memory wire. Alright, so I have that. Now another way is you can go to your Home Depot, and you can also just go and get some cutters from there. Doesn't matter what they are as long as they're heavy duty and not your expensive jewelry wire cutters. And let's see how this cuts. Pretty nicely. And no dulling, no pitting in the blade or anything. So you have two choices of doing that, okay? Now, that's two choices. Now, I have a third choice. This was given to me in a tip. I have yet to try it, but I'm going to still use my pliers to do this. Apparently you can take, and you're like, oh, I want to cut off this little piece here. You can just clamp it down and just start bending it. And then it breaks off that way. Those are 3 ways that you can cut memory wire instead of using your expensive cutters. For my number 2, I wish I knew that rings were so easy to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 easy rings that you can do that once you start doing it, you can be like, oh my goodness, why didn't I do this from the beginning? So I'm going to show you these 3 easy rings. These are the 3 easy rings that I came up with. So it's good to draw out your ideas. And in my case, I have 3 ideas. This is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. The first one I'm going to do is this one with the heart in the middle. And you can always do a different rendition of a square in the middle or a circle in the middle. So we're going to start on this first ring, which is with the heart. So we are going to grab our 18 gauge copper wire. We have our tools that we're going to use. First, to do this, we are going to make a loop. I'm using my brand new pliers. Looking at this, just so you know, these pliers, they have 6 different sizes. You may be looking at this and it looks like they're all the same size, but they're not. This side is smaller than this side. So I'm going to try to use the smallest on these pliers. So I'm going to use this small side here, and I'm going to do a backwards loop. I'm just going to loop it backwards. Okay. So then I have my little backwards loop. Then I'm going to grab my mandrel and I'm going to pick a size, and I think I'm going to go with I always go with a size 8. And when I go with a size 8, it always ends up, once I get done with the ring, it always ends up being a size smaller. So just go up a size in your ring. So I'm just going to wrap it around the size that I chose. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this around. And I want to make sure that my circle is pointed the way I have bent it. So it's kind of off. You see how it is? So I want to make sure that it's not flat on this mandrel. So once I sized it up, I'm going to look at it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it with enough space that I can fit my heart on. Okay. So I'm going to cut it right here. Okay. Give myself some space to make my circle, just like I did on this side. I'm going to take it off of my mandrel. I'm going to choose my small size again on my pliers here, and I'm going to do another loop. Okay. So now I have this U-shaped ring. Okay. I'm going to pick up my mandrel just to make sure I have my circle going correctly. So now if we have it on a size 8, we have all this space to create our circle. Okay. Next step is I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab my 18 gauge again using a pair of pliers that has a straight edge on it. I am going to grab a ruler real quick, and I'm going to measure out about an set my ruler aside, get my flat pliers here, and I'm going to put my pliers right at that mark, and I'm going to bend it up. I'm going to bend it into a V like this. Okay, then I'm going to cut it. Okay, so now I have this nice little V. Seems like this side is a little bit bigger, and that's okay. We're gonna eye it up a little bit more and just cut off that. So we should have a little V that looks like this. This is the bottom of our heart. Now I'm going to take my pliers. I think I'm going to try my other new pliers, which has the concave part and then you have the jump ring part. So using the smallest of the jump ring part, I'm going to start wrapping this around. We're going to start bending it. I'm going to bend one side, turn it over, then I'm going to start bending the other side. And keeping it on the smallest setting of this pair of pliers, I am just trying to make sure I keep it even when I do that, okay? Because this part is keeping it circle, so is the other part. So we're gonna keep switching from side to side, just tightening up these loops. Look at that. Got ourselves a little heart. So if you're a stickler and you want to make sure your heart keeps its shape and you want it to be the perfect heart ever, then I'm going to take my other new pair of pliers, which has nylon covers on it, and I'm just going to just squish it just to make sure that all those loops are even with each other, okay? And there you go. You have yourself a little heart. Yay! So now I'm going to take my ring and I'm going to unloosen this part right here. So I can take any sort of pliers to do that with. So I'm going to take these pliers and I'm going to unloosen one of these circles. And then I'm going to take my heart and I'm just going to slip it on to that one circle and then I'm going to close it. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take this other end and I'm going to open that up too. I'm going to open up this one a little bit more than I did the other side. And I'm going to squish it in just a smidge because I want to make sure I get this heart on here. All right. So at this point, I'm going to take and put it on my mandrel again. And here's the part where I told you that you will probably go down a size, and that's okay. So I tell you to go up. That's why I tell you go up a size. So we're just gonna fit and shape this onto our mandrel, onto our right size. And look at that. Just like I said, we went up an 8. We did the size of the ring at an 8, and I said go up a size. Now we have it at a size 7. And now I'm going to close this loop onto this heart. And there you go. And there goes your heart ring. So the next ring that we're going to do is we're going to do this second ring right here. This second ring utilizes a bead as a focal point instead of a heart as a focal point. Now we're going to do a bead. So this is the bead that I chose to use for this project. We are going to use the same thing. We're going to use our 18 gauge copper wire. And so we're going to take our bead and we're going to put it on our wire just so it's on there. Keep it safe, okay? Then I'm going to use my double-sided jump ring pliers and I'm going to choose the smallest size and I'm going to do a circle. So now I'm going to push the bead up and I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to squish it in my pliers. Okay. Then I'm going to twist it back and around the bead. Okay. And then I'm going to take it out real quick. and put it back in so that I can complete the circle. So there you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this really quick. Make sure that you are holding your bead and holding the wire at the same time, and just boop. So I'm going to use my nylon covered pliers again just to move this wire around and flatten it, moving it, making sure that it is flat. So there you have it. So now for our next step is we're going to do the same ring that we did for the heart. Using our 18 gauge, we're going to grab our double barrel jump ring pliers using the smallest size. I'm going to, and this is a small size right here, so I'm going to back loop it. Okay. We are going to grab our ring dowel. We are going to go up a size again, and we're going to wrap it around our dowel. Alrighty. To make sure this bead is going to work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this loop here. Boop. Then we're going to take our bead and we're going to loop that on, and then we are going to close this loop now. So now our bead is on our ring here. So I'm going to look at it a little bit more because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to cut this wire. It doesn't really matter, but you just want to make sure you have enough to work with here. And so this is where my other side is meeting. So I just want to make sure I have enough. So I'm just going to cut it about right here, because if I don't have enough to loop around, it's not that big of a deal. It's just going to make the ring a little bit smaller than expected. So I'm giving myself some room. See that? And then I'm going to take this end and I'm going to loop it into my bead, but I want to make sure that it's on here. It's on the first side evenly, which it is. And then I'm going to take this one side right here and I'm going to put it inside the loop of the bead. Okay, so there I have it. Now I'm going to take my flat pliers and I'm going to pull. So I'm pulling it to make sure that it's all even. Okay, make sure I have enough space to work with. Okay, making sure I have enough space, making sure everything is tight. Okay, and I'm going to bend it. Okay, and that's keeping it at your 8 size. Now I'm going to take my double barrel jump ring maker using the smallest size. I'm just going to grab it really quick on that one size and I'm just going to twist it just a smidge. I'm going to bend it just enough that it's wrapping around. Okay, so now I have a loop on there. Now I want to cut it just to make sure I have enough space. I'm going to cut it about right here. Boop. Throw that out. So I'm going to grab these pliers. These are just easier to work with when I'm trying to get my loops right. And look at that. We got our little ring. You know what I like to work with? Circle beads, because when you're putting it on and it's a little bit tight, the bead, the round bead actually rolls onto your finger and it rolls it up. So there you go. We utilize the bead to make a ring. So this is my third ring that I'm going to do. Very easy. It may not look like anything special from this angle, but let's see how special it's going to get. Again, we are going to use 18 gauge copper wire. I'm going to use this time I'm going to use my one-sided jump ring and concave. I don't know what to call these. I'm making up names as I go along, just so you guys are like, oh yeah, the concave part, because it actually bends in. It's concaved on this side to keep your circle that you make on this side a circle. So it's kind of like a double barrel situation. So we're going to use these pliers this time. We're going to call them these pliers. I'm just going to make a circle. So if I want to go back, I got to have the concave part on the bottom. So I'm going to put my pliers right on there, and I'm going to make a circle going backwards. Okay, so now we got ourselves a little circle. So here's the part. Uh-oh, what did I do? I'm gonna cut this out real quick because I need more wire. Okay, so now we're going to use our dowel. So I think, you know, I stay within the 6, 7, 8, because I mean, I know that my thumb is a size 9, so I'm gonna go to the size 9. Okay, so if I'm having it go up, that means that I need to start wrapping it this way. So one thing that's gonna help you is I'm flattening out this circle so that it can lay on my mandrel. Okay, so I have it laying on my mandrel like this. Then I'm going to put my thumb here, and then I'm just going to wrap it back. Okay, so I wrapped it twice. Now that I have it on my size 8 here, or you know, you can have it on a size 9. It's up to you. I'm going to do it size 9. So it's easy to change your ring size if you need to, if you're mid making it. So I have the circle right here. Okay, I'm going to grab my pliers, my cutters, and I see that I have my circle here. So I'm going to cut it about right over here, because that would make it a little bit longer, giving me a little bit more space to make my circle. So I'm going to cut it about right here. Okay, now I'm going to take it off my mandrel. You can use these or these interchangeably. And so now I'm looking at this. So I have the circle going up. Now I'm going to have the circle going down. And that would mean that since the circle is spinning this way, we want our circle to spin this way to make it even. We're going to have our circle going back. So I'm going to spin it back. Okay. So now look at that. Now I'm going to use my nylon covered, and I'm just going to make sure that the circle is going in the right direction. Make sure it's flat so that when I'm trying to put this on my finger, it's not going to be sticking up off my finger. So there you go. This is your third easy ring. Feel free to put this video in a playlist so you can always revisit it, but this is the very easy ring. So those are 3 easy rings that you can do using 18 gauge wire and the brand new pliers that you got. For my number 1, and I put this as my number 1 because I was super excited once I learned how to do this. My number 1 is you can make a bead cradle or a cage. You're like, what is a bead cradle or a cage? Let me show you. Okay, to create a cage, we have to start first with the smallest end of our double barrel jump ring pliers. So we're going to start with a loop. Okay, so we have a loop. Now we're going to take our flat pliers. I would use the flat pliers with the nylon, but they're kind of slippy to me. They don't have as much of a grip. Now we're going to take the little loop that we made, and we're going to keep the loop going. So we're going to make a little spiral. So I'm going to clamp it really quick. We're going to clamp it into my flat pliers. And so when I'm doing this, I want to make sure I have a little bit of loop showing through so that I know how tight I'm going to be twisting this. Okay, So I'm going to keep it spinning. Okay. All right. So now from this point, I got like a little spiral going. I can start spiraling this with my hand. See how easy that is? It's always good to have the bead that you want to use on hand, and I like to put it on there just to see if I have enough space for it to go around it. So I know from this point I'm good. I don't need to go any further. And so from this point I have the spiral up this way. So now I want to take my finger and just push like this. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a place for the other side to come into this side. So I'm trying to do a double spiral. Okay, so now that I have a little space for it, I like to go down my wire to see how far I think it should go, and I like to eye this up. So I'm doing about, so we're looking at like 5 inches. So I'm going out, if you're technical, go out like 5 inches, and then I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to set that aside. So we know that on this side, we went in this direction. Now we want to go in this direction. So with our double barrel pliers, we are going to go start our circle in this direction. All right, so now we have, so we're going to take our flat, grab it where there is a little bit of the loop poking through, and we're going to start bending it in the direction it needs to go, which is this direction. Okay, and I like to grab it in the back of my pliers, not the front. For some reason it's less tight here, but it's very tight right here. So I'm just grabbing my work that way and making sure that I have it so tight that it's not moving around in there. Because once it starts moving, this wire starts moving around, that's when you create scratches. So tight grip as possible, let it go. Tight grip, let it go. Tight grip, let it go. So you didn't create any scratches. So now from this point, now I can just do this with my hand, because this wire is pliable that you can move it around as you can with your hand and just start spiraling it in. From this point, I like to take and gauge and compare the different sides. So they look pretty even. I want to go in a little bit more so I have less of a space here. Alrighty. So from this point, we are going to grab the smallest pliers that you have, and I'm going to take this middle. I want to take this middle part and I want to pull it out. Okay. So we're trying to make this into a 3D effect. So I'm going to grab it on the edges and just pull it. Okay, boom. So we have a little 3D effect here. Just make sure all the sides are even. Not one side is pulled out more than the others. Now we're going to do it on this side. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull the middle. We're going to pull it out. Make sure all the sides are even. All the spirals are even coming out. Okay. There we go. So now you have this 3D effect of your spirals now. So now I'm going to hold this in my hand like this. I'm going to grab my bead that I want to cover and stick it right in there, okay? So there you have it. So now it's covering up. So now we have this other side and we want this side to be on top of there. So all we have to do is just bend it right here. Okay. And then we're going to pull this down. We're going to pull it to meet to the other side. And then if you feel like, oh, it should be tighter, you can just always just spiral and twist. When you spiral and twist, it gets a little tighter, a little tighter. Do it on the other side. Spiral and twist, it gets a little tighter, a little tighter. Okay. So there you go. You have your little cage. And if you want to go and take it a step further, you're like, either you can string it onto a string with other beads, or you can change this into an earring. So take your flat pliers. If you want to change it into an earring, you're going to make yourself a little jump ring using the beginning loop. Okay. Put our pliers right there underneath our beginning loop and just twist it up. Boom. Now you have somewhere to put your jump ring or put your earring wire into. Just make sure you're keeping the spirals uniform. And so there you go. I feel like I want to make this into a pair of earrings. Hold on a second. Then I decided to leave the bead off and just have an empty cage one. And that's what this one looks like. So thank you so much for watching my another top 10 things I wish I knew about wire wrapping video. You guys are something else. I don't know how I got to, I'm like almost at 11K. This is nutsy cuckoo. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my butt for following me, subscribing to me, finding me on my Instagram. You guys have been commenting, giving me such awesome suggestions. I don't know what I can do to thank you guys. So I guess I'll just keep making videos. You seem to like that. So stay tuned for my top 10 craft supplies that I cannot live without. Also, stay tuned for what videos am I coming out with? I'm over here saying stay tuned. I don't even have a list of videos sitting in front of me. Because that's just how I work, okay? No, really, I'm going to look that up. Hold on a second. I'm going to do a video on the Happy Jig and how to use it and how to utilize it for your wire wrapping purposes. Because I know you guys have wire wrapping purposes that you need things for. So I'm going to show you how to use a Happy Jig. So I'm going to show you different projects that you can use it for and how to, basically just how to use it. So stay tuned for that. And as usual, you guys, thank you so much for subscribing to me. Thank you for counting on me to help you with your jewelry wrapping needs and other stuff, other needs like butts and things. Whatever happened to my butt necklace? And thank you so much for watching. Bye.